April 1945. Germany. An American patrol was moving through a field when one of them stopped. "Sergeant." The sergeant walked over. Then he stopped too. 12 American soldiers, lying in the mud, all of them dead. He looked at them, really looked. No weapons around them, no shell craters, no signs of a firefight. He crouched down next to the nearest body, hands tied behind his back. He moved to the next one. Same. He went down the line. 12 men, 12 pairs of hands tied behind their backs. Then he saw it, half buried in the mud, a few feet away. A white flag. They had surrendered. They had done everything right. Weapons down, hands up, white flag raised. Every rule of war followed exactly as they had been trained. And someone had tied their hands behind their backs and shot them anyway. 12 men, gone. The sergeant stood up slowly. He looked at his men. None of them spoke. Then he looked back at the white flag in the mud. The report reached Patton before noon. He read it once. He set it down. He looked at the wall in front of him for 10 full seconds without moving. Then he turned to his aide and said something so quiet that the man had to ask him to repeat it. And when he heard it the second time, he understood why Patton had said it so quietly the first time. Before we get into what happened next, if you want more untold stories from World War II, hit that subscribe button. It was April 14th, 1945, 3 weeks before Germany's surrender. In most parts of the front, German soldiers were surrendering by the thousands. The war was decided. Everyone knew it, but not everyone had accepted it. The 12 men were from the 357th Infantry Regiment, experienced soldiers, men who had been in Europe since Normandy. They had crossed France in the summer, survived the winter, pushed into Germany in the spring. 10 months of combat. They were close enough to the end to count the days. Their sergeant was Robert Hale, 24 years old, from a small town in Kentucky. He had wanted to be a school teacher before the war. He had been in Europe for 10 months, the kind of soldier who kept his men alive not by being reckless, but by being smart, by making the right call when it mattered. His men trusted him because he had never once made the wrong one. On the morning of April 14th, moving through farmland near the town of Murkers, they ran into an SS column. No time to pull back, no cover. Outnumbered and surrounded, Hale looked at the situation for about 2 seconds. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out the white flag. It was the right call. The war was 3 weeks from ending. A prison camp meant going home. Fighting meant dying for a field that would be irrelevant by May. He raised the flag. The SS unit stopped. The Americans laid down their weapons. They were searched. Then one by one, they were walked to the edge of the field. Hale watched the soldiers produce rope. He looked at the rope. He understood what it meant. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. Their hands were bound behind their backs. The SS officer looked down the line at 12 Americans. He gave one order. It was over in less than 2 minutes. The reconnaissance patrol that found them 3 hours later came over a low rise in the ground and stopped cold. There were 12 of them lying in the field below. At first, the patrol leader thought they had stumbled on a battlefield. Then he looked more carefully. No weapons, no craters, no signs of a fight. He didn't speak for a long moment. He just looked. Then he crouched down next to the nearest body, looked at the hands, stood up, looked at the white flag in the mud, stood there for another moment. Then he got on the radio. He didn't describe what he had found. He simply gave the coordinates and said they needed military police and a photographer immediately. The photographer arrived within the hour. He documented everything before anything was moved. Every body, every set of bound hands, the white flag, exactly where it had fallen. By the time the report was compiled and sent up the chain of command, it was mid-afternoon. It moved fast. Everyone who read it passed it on without delay. It reached Patton's headquarters before the end of the day. His aide, Colonel Thomas Reed, placed it on his desk and stepped back. Patton picked it up. He read about how the patrol had found them. He read the position of the bodies, the detail about the bound hands, the white flag. He read the medical officer's assessment. None of the 12 had died in combat. All 12 had been shot at close range while restrained. He read the photographer's notes. He looked at the photographs that had been attached to the back of the report. He set the report down. He sat without moving for almost a full minute. The room was very quiet. Then he turned to Reed. "Find the unit," he said, so quietly that Reed had to ask him to repeat it. Patton said it again, same words, same quiet voice. "Find the SS unit that did this. I want their designation. I want their commander's name. I want to know exactly where they are right now." Reed left immediately. Within 18 hours, military intelligence had the answer. SS Panzergrenadier Battalion 506, Commander SS Sturmbannführer Karl Dietz, age 36, from Dresden, last known position, moving east toward Gotha. Patton called his senior staff together. He stood at the map. He put his finger on the location. "We are going to find this unit," he said. "We are going to bring in the commanding officer and every man present in that field. They will be tried. This will not be filed away and forgotten." One of his officers raised a concern. Committing forces to track down a single SS battalion while the main advance was still moving would cost time. Patton looked at him. "Those 12 men followed the rules," he said. "They surrendered correctly. They were shot for it. And you're asking me to let the men who did that walk away because it's inconvenient to find them." He looked back at the map. "Find them. I want a location within 48 hours. Nobody argued again. The search took 4 days. Each morning, Reed gave Patton a brief update on the search. Each morning, Patton read it without comment and asked one question: "Where are they now?" Each morning, the answer was that they were closing in. Battalion 506 was located near Gotha, attempting to link up with a larger SS formation moving east. American forces moved to cut off their route. It took 2 days to surround them completely. When the encirclement closed, an American officer approached under a flag of truce and gave the battalion 1 hour to surrender. Dietz considered his options. He had one. He raised his hands and walked out of the tree line with his remaining men. Behind him, he handed over his sidearm without being told. He looked straight ahead as the American soldiers moved forward to take custody. Nobody in Patton's command missed what this was. The man who had ordered the execution of 12 Americans who had surrendered with a white flag had just surrendered himself with a white flag. Dietz was brought in, formally charged, and placed in custody. The charges were read to him in full. The name of every man killed in that field was listed in the document. The trial was held in the first week of June, 6 weeks after the bodies were found. The evidence was comprehensive. 2 local farmers who had seen part of what happened from the edge of their property and had come forward to American investigators. The photographer's documentation presented photograph by photograph, the medical report, the intelligence assessment, placing Battalion 5006 in that exact sector at that exact time. Dietz offered no meaningful defense. His lawyer argued that he had been following orders. The tribunal found that argument inadequate given the circumstances. Patton had made one specific request when the trial was scheduled. Before any testimony, before any opening arguments, before anything else happened in that courtroom, the names of the 12 men were to be read aloud into the record. Every name, in full. The clerk stood and read them one by one into the record. It took 3 minutes. The courtroom was completely silent the entire time. Dietz sat at the defendant's table and did not look up. The tribunal deliberated for less than 2 hours. Dietz was convicted on all 12 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death. The sentence was carried out in October of 1945. The families of the 12 soldiers received formal notification by the end of June. The letters explained what had happened, what had been done about it, what the verdict was. Most of them had spent 2 months not knowing exactly how their sons had died. Some had received the standard telegram, "Killed in action, April 1945. A few had received nothing yet. Now they knew, and they knew something else, that the men responsible had been found. Sergeant Robert Hale's mother, Margaret, received a separate letter from the division commander. It said her son had made the correct decision in raising the white flag, that he had followed every rule he had been trained to follow, that what happened afterward was a crime, not a consequence of his choice. Patton never mentioned the case publicly. He mentioned it once in a letter to his wife written that evening. One sentence. He wrote that 12 of his men had been shot after surrendering and that the man responsible had been found and would answer for it. That was all. Colonel Reed, who had been in that room when Patton read the report and sat still for almost a minute, spoke about it years later. I've seen Patton angry many times, Reed said. Loud, direct, fierce. That was one version of him. But there was another version that you saw very rarely. When something hit him in a specific way, he went quiet. Completely quiet. That day was one of those times. He read that report and didn't say a word for almost a full minute. I've thought about that minute a great deal since. I think he was going through everything in his head. What happened, what it meant, what he was going to do about it. And by the time he turned to me and spoke, all three of those things were settled. He paused. He said it quietly because he didn't need to say it loudly. When Patton spoke quietly like that, everyone in the room knew something was going to happen. And it was going to happen completely. Was Patton right to redirect forces specifically to find this unit? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories about World War II and what it meant to fight for the men under your command, make sure to subscribe.